Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we've got an interesting one. A Maison Margiela. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Maison Margiela.
I think so. Margiela. Okay. One of these guys. I'm sure some of you have seen it. The split toe right there. So, we're going to do some sole protectors. Come join us and check it out. Alright everyone, so thank you for joining us. As you can tell, these are a little bit of an abnormal design just because it's got that split right there in the toe, right where the sole is and all the way up through. So it's going to be a new one as far as showing you how that's done, basically. But we're going to be doing a mirror gloss Casali protective sole. It's not quite the same as, like, say, one of these right here, where it's, you know, easy to do because it's all one shape all around. It's rounded and there's no turns or anything, or like these ones either, even though they're a high heel. Those are a lot easier to do. These are harder just because of that one split, but we're gonna go ahead and get them taken care of. I've been talking all funny all day, but I'm gonna start out with, usually we tape these off, but because this is a bit of a thicker sole on them, thankfully we're not gonna have any issues or anything like that with them. As far as edging or anything, it's a neutral edge as well on top of that, so I can go straight to this step here. Now a lot of times if we start getting involved with inks or something, then I have to make sure that it's all taped off and protected, but as long as my hands aren't covered in dye, again, can't talk, I should be fine. So I'm just going to take this all, just kind of scrape it across here, give me a nice faint line. If it cooperates. There we go. Beautiful. Now I can take my razor blade and just start cutting. If you're new to the channel, the mirror soles unfortunately can't be sanded out or anything like that to fit nice and flush with the sole. So what we have to do, and we absolutely have to, is cut this at a 90-degree angle, the original sole on the shoe. That way this edge of that sole protector lines up right up against it nicely without having to do any kind of sanding. Some sole protectors we're able to use just the sander and sand that section out instead, but no matter how skilled of a cobbler you are, the machines are incapable of doing a perfect 90-degree angle. They leave a little bit of a rounded edge there, and so in order to compensate for not being able to do that, we have to cut it carefully by hand. Otherwise you got too much of a gap left over afterwards and just causes more potential for the sole protector coming off. There we go. Double check if I need to adjust it anywhere. Just a little bit here. Right. See how this fits. Okay. I think I'll have to cut just a little bit more right here. Yeah, one issues sometimes with the high heel versions is because of the angle and how the sole is rounded in certain areas. Getting this to be as straight as possible doesn't always work 100% of the time. There we go. So we got that right there, nice and even. And so now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other shoe. Then we're going to run this over to the sander and start sanding this area out now that we've got that nice cut there and getting it prepped to glue. So we'll see you back here in just a minute. Alright everyone, so we got this area surface sanded out nicely. You saw that I had to do it in a few different directions to make sure that everything is nicely sanded out. Now we always have to make sure that it's roughed up and sanded out because one, we got to lower the height just a little bit because we're basically adding a little bit of a thickness to it. It's like 1.2 millimeters, so nothing too much, like 1 or 1.2, but we got to try to take off about roughly the equivalent so that the shoe doesn't feel off on the person who's wearing them. Now with the hand cutting that I do, I only do a little bit at first and then sand it out, but then afterwards I have to touch it up again to make sure that this lip here, I don't know if you can see it on that one, but maybe on this one there's a little bit of a lip still right there basically. Sorry for the dirty cobbler hands there and nails, but I got to make sure I cut out that lip and even it out some. It's just a little bit, not too much. I can take a bit more of a, or less of an angle, in other words, when I'm cutting it out initially, and then I don't have to do this, but it actually makes it a little bit easier, at least on me, to do. Kind of shave this down. It's all a matter of, you know, what you're comfortable with. Some cobblers will prefer to just cut it right away like that, but they have to still go through it a few times and take out layers, in other words, where I just have to even out the little lip that's sitting there. So to each his own basically. All right, now I have to take a little bit of sandpaper by hand and kind of even it out and rough it up just like that, because the knife still leaves it just a little too smooth, more than I would like. So that's why I gotta take a little bit of sandpaper in that area and rough it up as well. Otherwise, you know, it becomes a weak point, and we don't want any weak points on there. Now, close that off for now to be safe. I'll set this aside because the next step is putting some glue on there, a couple of coats on there. But these sole protectors, however, because of the type of compound that they are, from the factory they come with a primer already on it. However, we've been coming across a little bit of an issue, and this is for some of you other cobblers out there that watch. Put some primer on it as well. I learned the hard way with some problems with them where the primer has missed a few spots. Like I could even see right here, I don't even know if the camera will catch it, but there's a spot right there. See that little tiny speck? That's a bit of a missed or a weak spot, and there's some areas like that that I come across, especially on the back edge. It's kind of the same way all around. So in order to prep this beforehand, I like to prime it, and for cobblers out there, that's what I use for the primer, Rania Syntec. Was actually recommended by a fellow cobbler. I think he's out in where was he? He's out of the US. He's not in the US. He's in a different country, and I can't remember off the top of my head where he's located at. But use this as a primer, dries nicely, make sure it doesn't splatter all over there, and then let that sit and dry before I use the actual adhesive, because the compound on this, on these sole protectors, is actually a form of plastic. You know, you think plastic is hard and all that kind of stuff, but it's actually an extremely grippy, flexible plastic. I mean, you can really see that's very flexible, and the grip on this is phenomenal. You know, it doesn't slide. Oh, great. Just got it all dirty and everything. Wonderful. Wipes up pretty easily. But it grips phenomenally considering that it's such a smooth surface on that. So just wanted to kind of mention that, because I always say that it's a rubber because majority of the soles we work with are a type of rubber, but this one, it's a form of plastic that that ends up being treated in such a way and you know, mixed properly where it turns out to be so flexible and so grippy, it almost is sticky and everything. But I just want to point that out to some of you ladies out there. Now, some of you ladies might be freaking out also about the whole sanding and cutting and everything like that, but we kind of have to do that because just gluing it right over top of that smooth leather, these things will peel up after the first wear. You wear it one time and it's going to start peeling up. It's the safest thing to do and basically the only way to do it. Otherwise, these things are not going to hold on there. We do it on red bottom shoes. It doesn't matter what kind of finish it is. We always have to sand and grind it down just a little bit to make sure that not only the thickness is adjusted for, but also that there's a good surface area to adhere to. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these up, do the same thing with this other shoe as far as cutting out that little lip there, and then start getting ready to stick it. But before I let you go, if you're wondering, no, I don't have a last that actually fits these. You'd have to have like custom made last. You can see I'm using the ladies one, and this little tip right here is just going into that larger section for the moment. And so when I'm going to be hammering, I'm going to hammer out this whole area right here like that, pretty much. And then when I need to hammer this out, I'll show you what I use. It's a little bit of a different thing that I end up having to use. Some of you cobblers might appreciate it and use that if you ever come across a shoe like this. So when it's time to stick that sole on, I'll show you and you'll see what it looks like. All right, everyone, so we got everything all glued up and ready to go. So with these, I have to put them on cold. A lot of our soles we usually heat up in the oven beforehand, but I've had too much bad experiences where this particular material melts. It doesn't turn out very pretty when you heat it in the oven. So what I do is I put this on cold first, line it all up, get all the center hammering. At least I need to make sure that this is hammered a little bit, and then some of this area here. Now, afterwards, I take my heat gun and heat it up. Okay, all right, press that out by hand a little bit. Now, okay, so I've got that area done. As I mentioned, I could only do just this wider portion right here. So now I'm going to switch over to another machine where I've got an attachment sitting on it that will help me do this side. So I got to do this quick while it's still warm. All right, so I'm going to hammer this before I show you guys real quick, again because it's still warm. There we go. Can't hammer it too hard necessarily. Make sure everything's pressed out nicely. But you can see this attachment piece. It's got a little bit of a longer arm and it's nice and skinny. This is on one of our auto solers. This is a part that's used for the auto solar, but it really comes in handy a lot of times for these tight squeezed areas. So, voila. Now I'm going to let this sit and cure for a little bit before I start trimming it up by hand, and we'll go from there. So see you in a few. All right, everyone. So I let these cure overnight, and now it's time to go ahead and get them all trimmed up. So we're going to use one of these hook blades here. I'll cut the outer edge first. Gotta make sure the blades are nice and sharp. Some cobblers use scissors, some use what's called a lip knife as well. I don't have one on this table to be able to show you, but there's a few different methods that some cobblers use. I find this one the best just because the razor is changed out, so it tends to stay sharp, and you want to make sure it's as sharp as possible, especially because you hear that squeaking. That means that it's a very, very sticky material that's trying to grab hold of the blade, and having too thick or dull of a blade, you're not going to cut through it. Okay, so got that part off. So now we got to deal with that little split here. This part's a little bit tricky just because I have to use two different blades, and thankfully these toe areas on the leather uppers are fairly soft, so I'm able to start cutting into this very carefully. Now I can't really show you on camera because I have to be the one that keeps an eye on it, otherwise if I go too far down I'll start cutting into that leather sole, or worse, the upper. Okay, there's one. Okay, and now the other side. Let's see, might be able to split it just enough. Can you see down in there? See how it goes? So I got one side taken care of, but kind of need to set it down to be able to cut. There we go. Alright, so we got that part of the flap. See how it's down in there? Now I just gotta use one of these because the hook is not going to turn, and I gotta be able to get this to turn. Sorry, I had to grab that phone call, but anyway, so got that piece cut out, but obviously you can see that it's not quite perfect. It's got a little bit of a rigid edge, so I'm gonna run this over to the trimmer real quick, toss that little piece out, and go ahead around the outer edge first real quick. That kind of gets anything out of the way that may possibly be bothering me. So let's move over to the trimmer real quick. Alright, so we're over at the table that I just have cluttered up at the moment, but I need this tool right here. It's kind of like a form of Dremel almost, but not quite. This one's actually designed for like jewelers and everything. It's a little motorized machine that you can kind of see back there, and it's got a few attachments. So this one I'm using is just a little sander like that. Nothing too big. So I'm going to go through at a little bit of an angle here, because it kind of helps when it's at an angle actually, so that the sole stays intact on there for as long as possible when you take certain angles. Then afterwards I'm going to switch it out to the skinnier one here. This one's stone type, so it doesn't exactly take off enough material as much as I'd need, but it's going to help finish out that very last corner piece on the inside here. So let's go ahead and get this one at least taken care of. Okay, I'll change out this other one. Oof, almost kicked my camera over. Sorry, I know the hose is in the way a little bit here. Okay. So that at least takes care of that area there. You can see that there's a little chunk sticking out, so I got to clean that up. I actually do that with some little scissors just to kind of snip it up because it doesn't melt and so it curls up and does that there. But let me go ahead and get that taken care of, blow off the dust and everything, and we'll move on. All right, everyone. So we've got everything kind of cleaned up right there, as far as like the little pieces that were sticking out and stuff. And now at this point we got to clean up the edges a little bit because we did slightly grind that. It is a neutral, so I'm just going to use a neutral cream polish, and we use Saphir Beauty Cure. We also use the Modality, or you can find this on our website as well. For edging, the Beauty Cure does plenty good. For the uppers, we like to use the Modality, which comes in those square jars. It's that higher grade polish. So I'll go ahead and get this all on here. Now as far as down in there, I'm pretty much gonna have to like floss it in, pretty much. So okay, see, just like that a little bit. Spread some and then put it in. Did I show that right? Did you guys see that? Gotta go like that. But anyways, gonna take care of that. Now, one thing I'd like to mention is if you've got white shoes like this, if you bought yourself a new pair, if you're ordering a pair, first things first, waterproof them, waterproof them, waterproof them. You got to do that. It's very, very important. So make sure you take care of that. Also, one thing I'll mention that if you've got a smooth leather like this, it's a good idea to condition it when you have them even new, because at the factories they actually don't condition the leather after it's turned into a shoe. The leather is only treated during the process when they're dyeing or tanning it. Once it becomes a shoe, not much is really done for it. Even on a really high-end shoe that's thousands of dollars and stuff, they very rarely, unless they're a custom made pair, that they actually treat the leather and condition it. So first things first, I would recommend, if you got white especially, it is an acrylic based dye that they use on here, so just a neutral cream conditioner. I've got a large bottle of this stuff here. Saphir Universal Cream will do phenomenal. It comes in smaller bottles, so you can find that also on our website. After you do that and just let it kind of soak in, then you'll waterproof it. Let me grab the waterproofer to show you. All right, there we go. But the Tarago Nano Protector, this stuff here, usually has a little blue lid on it. This is just the one that we have open here already in the back and stuff. But make sure you waterproof it, give it some time to activate and everything, and you'll be all set to go. Highly recommend that to prevent any problems down the road on any of your shoes, really. If you have a darker pair of shoes that are black, especially, for example, if you're using a cream polish like this, for example, and you put some wax on there, usually the wax creates a nice barrier, but you still want to make sure that you kind of keep an eye on it. And if it's very, very delicate leather, like say you know, goat skin or lamb skin, that's a much softer leather that doesn't take wax all that well, so throw a little waterproofer on there. Purses as well, jackets, same thing. You know, waterproofing is going to be very, very important for you. Just wiping off some of the areas here with some, looks like some dust may have landed on it. White seems like a great color, but it's a maintenance. It's a lot of maintenance. You gotta take care of it. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Please, preferably shorter questions, longer questions. If you have more details that you need or something like that, send us an email. It may take us a little bit to get to the email or something, just because we are getting a little backlogged on our emails, but you are more than welcome to call also. And if you're local here in the Denver area, you could always stop by as well. You can find all of our information on our website at cobblersplus.com. And even for these sole protector options, you can find that on our website as well if you want to ship them in, or just to check out what kind of different options we have to pick from. The products again that I mentioned you can find on our website. First things first, condition. If you got white shoes, Sphere Universal Cream, you'll be able to find that. And then this, if you want the Beauty Cure, the Medal d'Or, we have that on there as well. But if you're taking care of white shoes like this, just your basic conditioner, and very important is going to be the waterproofer. Any white leathers especially, waterproof, 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 very important. But otherwise, if you want to ship out your shoes to us, you can always do that as well. Stop by and whatever works. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe, like the video, share it, comment, whatever you want to do, and hit that notification bell icon to be notified when we have our next videos out, or if we're doing a live stream, because you never know, if you get notified about our live stream and we're doing a giveaway, you might get a chance to win something free. We've given these away before, we've given away other Saphir products and other things, so make sure you hit that bell, because if you don't have that bell activated, you won't win anything if you don't find out that we're doing a live stream. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.